Good morning, folks. Welcome to the last of our devotions for this year. I want to begin this morning to look at a psalm with which all of us are very familiar indeed. We're familiar with it because we who are RPs sing it often in our worship, but we're also familiar with it because it is a psalm that most of us have known to some degree in our own personal experience. The psalm of which I speak is Psalm 40. The opening verses that I want us to think about express the wonderful deliverance that the psalmist experienced from what at the time was a very traumatic set of circumstances, indeed, life threatening circumstances. The language is the language of poetry, as with all of the Psalms, but it's not too hard to work out what the psalmist was experiencing as we look at these opening couple of verses. Verses 1 and 2 read as follows: I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. Verse 2 describes for us in picture form what the psalmist was experiencing. He says the circumstances in life that he was facing made him feel as though he were in a pit of destruction, in a miry bog. What does he mean by that? Well, I have never myself had the experience of being trapped in quicksand. But in the United Kingdom, in the coastal tidal areas around Morecambe Bay, also around the Severn Estuary and parts of the Norfolk and Lincolnshire coast, these places are notorious for quicksand. They are especially dangerous at low tide. And it's a sad fact that numerous people over the years have lost their lives in the quicksand. The problem is that once you get trapped in that quicksand, you cannot get a solid footing from which you can push yourself free. And so one sinks deeper and deeper into the loose sand and the mud until one is completely buried by it. David says, it was as if I had fallen into a pit or a well where the water had drained away, leaving a deep, slimy goo. And at the bottom, try as I might, I could not extricate myself from it. And the psalmist felt as though his circumstances were such that he was going to die. What the specific circumstances were, we can't say. But in all likelihood, this psalm was written in David's early days when he was fleeing from Saul. And on a number of occasions during his flight from Saul, he faced capture and death. Whenever trouble comes in life, especially trouble which turns our world upside down and removes from us everything that gave us, as it were, solidity under our feet in life, and the trouble caused us to feel as though everything in life was giving way beneath us. Well, that's how David felt. Everything that used to be normal had gone out the window. He was treading mud, sinking, and it was serious. Sometimes life brings serious difficulties and circumstances upon us. The man, the woman who is told by their doctor that they have a terminal illness or a major life impacting disease. The breadwinner of the home who loses their job. Bereavement when it comes into a family. Bereavement of one's spouse, bereavement of one's parents, and perhaps worst of all, bereavement of one's child or children. a marriage breakdown, a partner in life, a spouse committing adultery, the young wife who has a miscarriage or goes through her pregnancy and it ends up in a stillbirth. What do we do? What did David do? He looked to and he waited on God. Now the thing was, David could not get himself out of the pit he found himself in. He knew that if he was to be delivered from this, deliverance would have to come from outside himself. And so he waited, and he waited patiently. You know, there's a difference between waiting impatiently and waiting patiently. I have to confess, I am really good at waiting impatiently. I'm not so good at waiting patiently for things. You see, waiting patiently in circumstances that you can't change involves a measure of calmness. It involves a handing over of the situation to God and not allowing oneself to become overly distressed while that period of waiting continues. Waiting patiently involves faith. Waiting patiently is to wait believing that God knows about your circumstances, God is in control of these circumstances, and for whatever reason, God is allowing these circumstances to ultimately work out for your good. None of us know what 2026 holds for us. Some of us may find ourselves in a pit, a slimy pit, in which we can't get any foothold. Let us look to the Lord. Let us wait on the Lord. And let us wait patiently on Him until He comes to our help. I trust you'll have a blessed holiday season with your loved ones. And may God's blessing be upon you in the new year that lies ahead.